Welcome to the Level Up Your Band podcast, episode 40. Hello, and welcome back to the Level Up Your Band podcast. My name is Gavin Patterson, and I'm here with Julian Pombo. How are you doing?
Hey, yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Aye, not too bad, not too bad. We just had Halloween 3 days ago, four days ago.
Yep.
What'd you get up to? Did you dress up?
So no, on Halloween we didn't do anything because I was basically in the house by myself. So I basically sat with the lights off, pretending I wasn't home, doing a bunch of work on my computer.
What to try and get rid of the trick-or-treaters?
Yeah, I mean they shouldn't be coming around anyway.
No.
You know, because germs and that, it's more of a problem now. And we were also just not prepared. We no food. I was like, what the hell am I going to give them? An apple?
Potato.
Here, have a potato.
Have a grape.
So we didn't do anything then, but the following day, 1st November, All Saints Day, we were like, let's do Halloween. So we ate a bunch of orange food. So I made some dal,
Orange food.
and I made sweet potato pie, and we had some iron brew, and then we carved some pumpkins, and we just chilled out, and it was great fun. Yeah.
So you celebrated Halloween on the 1st of November?
Yes. Basically.
Fair enough. It was still Halloween somewhere.
Exactly. Yeah. It's somewhere where it was still 11 p.m. on the 31st. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, still counts.
How about you? What did you do?
Nothing. I ate a cake.
So spooky.
That's it. I ate a cake. I watched a sort of scary film, but it wasn't scary like horror. It was scary as how bad it was.
Oh, right. What was it?
I can't remember the name. It's just escaped my memory. Some bad Netflix film.
There's a really good one. And there was a really... I can't remember the name of it, but it's absolutely ridiculous. Scary film. I'll keep it short. Basically, there's a woman. She doesn't give money to this homeless, I don't know if it's the correct term to use now, but this a sort of gypsy, kind of
traveling person,
homeless woman, traveler, yeah. They're begging on the street for money, and she doesn't give them money, and then this old woman curses her, and then she sees her everywhere all the time doing really weird, gross, and sorry, swearing. But at one point, she there's just some really questionable scenes. There's one point where this old woman basically punches this other woman in the face, and her fist goes right into her mouth and down her throat all the way up to the armpit. Oh. And it's just and then there's another one where there's another bit where there's a goat and he gets possessed.
A possessed
and
goat.
He's dancing about and he goes, you
what is this?
Yeah, I can't remember. It's there's a bit where a kitten gets sacrificed. It's a bizarre film.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting insight into your film tastes.
Oh,
what?
I remember what it's called.
It's
called Drag Me to Hell.
Okay.
Drag Me to Hell, 2009. Check it out. It is the worst movie I've ever seen. It's bad. Apparently the guy who wrote it worked on the Spider-Man trilogy. So there you go. Level Up Your Band became film trivia podcast. Anyway.
Yeah.
So
how do I move on from that? I don't even... But so, from sacrificing kittens to finding motivation. Oh.
Yes.
So, last week we did our best to talk about sort of mental health stuff. So
Yes.
I thought this week we would go on, kind of moving on from that onto motivation. I don't know what to call this episode yet, but I'm sure it'll have a great title. But basically, this episode is going to be about like in this sort of time of uncertainty for creative people in the arts. The best thing you can have is a sort of motivation, because things are not going to always be like this. But I see a lot of people who are changing careers and dropping the arts and going into other stuff to try and earn some money, and that can be quite disheartening. But it's not forever, and things will get back to a new normal, whatever that happens to be. So yeah, we'll move right on to it. So when you're doing anything really, I'm going to try and keep this in context with musicians and bands and stuff, but when you're trying to think of ways to become a professional musician, or just mentalities on how to become a successful musician or try and level up your band, in essence, is the whole point in this podcast. Yeah. There's different ways of thinking about how you're going to go about that. So if you have talent in what you do, so that's the first thing that this episode assumes. The sort of ability and talent is a given, because if you don't have that from the outset, it's going to be hard to try and build a career. You can't really build a career on something that you're not good at. That's just I'm just going to say that at the start. You're going to need to find something that you're good at. If you want to do music, find something that you are good at within the music industry. That's what you do at school, usually. I mean, I started off in clarinet and I was dreadful, right? And then immediately segued to drums and was like, I can do this. I'm quite good at this. So you have to figure that out to begin with. So if you have talent in what you do not want a lack of motivation to be the reason for your failure. So I've got a kind of example here, because failure of motivation is not only a failure to yourself, but it's also a failure to society. Now that can sound scary, but if you can imagine, I've got some examples here, and you can probably throw in some. If you can imagine a world without people like Shakespeare, Isaac Newton, Plato, Robert Burns, Aristotle, Paul McCartney, insert
David Bowie,
whatever,
like anybody.
Insert that. Imagine a world without that, and also imagine that the reason they never reached their maximum potential was due to a lack of motivation, and how much less value would have been added to the world as a result. It would be a tragedy, It's really lucky that these people were so amazing and brilliant, and they had motivation to actually succeed and do things in the world. Imagine they were like super high level geniuses in their pursuits, but they were just lazy, and they just didn't have the drive to do it. That would be, there's probably people like that existed, but you never heard of them. So basically what the thing I'm trying to say is, don't be like that. Because if you're genuinely good at something, then I would say you have almost an obligation to share that skill, share that talent with everybody else,
Yeah.
So, number one, the first thing you should do if you want to be successful is define what is success to you, because everybody's definition of success is different.
Yeah.
For me, success was I want to be able to do the thing I love and make a living from it. That's success for me. Some people might be, I want to be the most famous person ever. I want to have loads of money. I want to be the best guitar player of all time. I want to take a rocket ship to the moon. I want to, there's so many different things that people define as success. So what I would recommend doing is figure out what you would define as success. Like, where would you, if you were to see yourself in 50 years' time, go, where am I? Where would I be? And what kind of life would I have? And, what would that be?
Yeah, at the same time, you need to be realistic, because at the same time I could sit here and hypothetically be like, in 10 years time I want to live in a castle in the sky with a harem and $10 trillion and whatever, whatever it might be, that just like every single thing, but those things are just silly. So you need to sort of like
things that are possible in the known universe.
Things that are possible, yes, exactly. So you need to like really like bring it down and look at at the core, I guess.
Yeah. So the idea of it being realistic, obviously, we mean realistic as in something that can actually occur. Like, I'm going to travel to the other side of the universe. Well, we don't. That's not physically possible as we know it. I mean, if you want to be a theoretical physicist that discovers ways to travel to the other side of the universe, I mean, if you're going to get into that field, then maybe that goal isn't as outlandish as you might think. Maybe. So, what I would say is no goal is too outlandish. Yeah. Because if your goal is quite high and you're a motivated person, then you might get somewhere close to that goal. If you aim high and you get somewhere close to it, and that's pretty cool. But obviously, if you're doing it for like, as a musician, you want to keep it sort of grounded in some regard. But what I would say, if you're write down all the things that you want to achieve from your band, your career, right? So you could pick as many as you like, but I've put here pick 3, because I think the more you pick, the harder it is to focus on individual ones. So I've put here, for example, financial stability / growth. So it's important to have financial stability, but also have growth as well, because you don't want to have the same wage for the rest of your life. You want to have a stable wage plus growth over time. Otherwise, if you don't have growth, you're dead. If an economy doesn't grow, it's dead or dying. If you yourself aren't growing, you're just flatlining. It's not a good thing to have. So, number 2 would be wider and more enthusiastic audience. That's something, or super fans. That's something that people would want. Because you want to have more engaged fans, people who are more into your music. That's the thing that bands and musicians want. And last, I've just picked an arbitrary 3. Number 3, deeper and more expressive music. So you always want to be writing and recording better music. Obviously, that's something that people want to do. If you are in a band, you will always have that song that you're like, oh, I wish I had done this. I wish I could do this better. And every time you do a new song, you're always like trying to improve your songwriting and all that. So those are 3 things you can say. So write down all the things that you want your band to achieve, or you want you yourself as a musician or a person to achieve. And this is just a little experiment to try and orient yourself. So now that you have a clear goal, whatever it happens to be, write down a step-by-step guide on how to achieve that goal. Now, obviously, you don't know what steps to write because, well, obviously this is a sort of musician's self-help podcast. The reason why you're listening is because you don't necessarily know how to get to that point. So you want to be rich and famous and have a really cool band. You don't know how to get there. That's why you're listening to people talking about it. But what this exercise is supposed to do is you can use your imagination a little bit. What do you think you should do? If you were visited, I've put here, if you were visited by yourself, say yourself from 30 years came back in a time machine with Marty McFly and said, hey, see that thing that you wanted to do? Oh yeah, it happened. We're successful. We're the most famous band. Or you're financially stable, or whatever your goal happens to be. What if you were to ask your future self, how did you get there? What do you think you would say, your future self? And write that down. Oh, I did this, and then this, and then this. And it'll actually come to you. It'll be more obvious than you think. Like, we had Graham Rory on, and how he managed to succeed in terms of his raising funds was developing a mailing list. Something as small as that created so much value for him and his band.
It's funny because a lot of people like go, oh, mailing lists, really? Like, people still use email? Yeah, people still use email.
Yeah,
email is like the most effective way to reach people. You know, I feel like a lot of people have sort of been thinking like, oh, it's social media. It's an expert. It's not.
No,
it's useful, but it's not.
Yep.
Emails.
So the step-by-step guide, as long as it gets to that goal. So literally just sit with a piece of paper or a Google Doc or whatever it happens to be. It could take you like half an hour. Put end goal, number one hit, or 100,000 monthly listens on Spotify, or whatever it happens to be. Just try and think of something that would give you meaning, because that's the most important thing. You can't be motivated by anything if what you're doing doesn't give you meaning. If you're doing something that's meaningless to you, you can't be motivated by that. That's just not how life works. So it's got to be the end goal has got to have some sort of significant meaning to you in order for you to be motivated by it. So once you've got that, it doesn't matter how detailed that list is, that step-by-step list, as long as it gets there. Even if it's just fiction, if it's just, you think maybe the reason for doing this is to orient yourself towards that goal. So think of the ways that think of things that will get you to that place so that you are going forward, not backwards. So you know that not posting on social media for 6 months is probably a bad thing if you're a band. Right?
Yeah.
People
just go, well,
not engaging with your audience. That's a clear step in the wrong direction. There are wrong steps that you can take. Not writing any music is a step in the wrong direction. So get all the steps that you think will lead to more and jot them all down. There's probably loads. But it can seem quite, what's the word? Overwhelming. I'll give you an example. I kind of did this when I decided to do a podcast. It was a year ago. It's over a year ago now. I think it was like September, October. I was driving to a friend's house and thought, I think I want to start a podcast. Just on helping musicians get better at having a band. And remember thinking, how am I going to come up with podcast episodes and topics and stuff? So what I did was I wrote out, your band is leveled up. How did you get there? So I just went through, I did like a Google Doc or a Google Sheet or something, and I put categories of like marketing, social media, rehearsal, music theory, blah, blah, blah. And then I just wrote individual topics that lead to getting better on every single category until I had like 40 different episode 40 40 different whatever 100 different topics, and I was like, oh, and now I have a path so that I can keep creating content every week. And that was just something simple like creating a podcast. You can do this for anything. There was a story, I don't know if it's true, but it doesn't matter, I've maybe said it before. Muhammad Ali, the boxer, kind of did this as a sort of meditation practice. So before a fight, I don't know if this is true, it doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be true, it's still cool. Apparently, he would sit in his dressing room alone and he would just sit in the dark and meditate, and he would picture the fight in his head. He would picture getting out of the dressing room, walking to the ring, you know, through the crowds, up onto the ring, and going toe-to-toe with his opponent, and he would picture every single blow and everything, and he would just completely mentally prepare for an outcome. And it was all in his head. It was all made up. But the fact that he laid out a structured path to success, even if it was false, it's oriented him in that direction, which was the important part. And that's kind of what this thing is all about. I don't know if that makes any bloody sense at all.
No, it does. But I would say that from a martial arts point of view, that is like a really clever thing to do, because basically what you're doing there is you're kind of almost thinking about you're rehearsing different techniques and things like that in your head, and like, okay, and then if this situation happens, what should I do there, you know, that kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. So it's for sure, like that's a really good way to think about and to sort of plot out how you're going to get somewhere.
Yeah.
Sort of just sitting and imagining like, okay, do this and then this and this, and if this doesn't happen, then one way I could fix it is by doing this, and you know, that kind of a thing. It's
the opposite of chaos. It's trying to, because everything is chaos. Everything in life is chaos, and then you as a person, human being, try to navigate that chaos and try to order it so that it gives an advantage to you. That's kind of what everyone does. You know, like there's so much chaos happening in the world, things that are out with your control, and you try and get a hold of it. And this is kind of what this is. So I've written here, the purpose of this exercise is to create a structured path in the direction of your goal. And without this, you're just wandering aimlessly. It's just chaotic. You're just throwing things out. Oh, I'll try this. Oh, maybe I'll try that. Oh, maybe I'll try this. And it's just seeing what sticks. That's not really a way of doing things. You've got to have a clear goal in mind of what you want. I remember when we started Eriska, even before the first rehearsal, my goal was to be featured on television. That's what I wanted. Like, Aileen and I, like, sat like, what do we want out of this? And I wanted an album, and I wanted to be on TV or radio. And our second gig was on TV. We managed to get in front of STV Glasgow, and I mean, it was a really crappy TV show, and it's not even around anymore, but that's besides the point. So
still managed it.
Yeah. And we got our album as well. But we had a path. You know, we've now got different paths. We've now got different goals. But the point is, we had that there to shoot for. So, what do you do about all this stuff? How do you actually do it? Which is the kind of next part. So, how do you actually carry out each step? Now that you've got the steps, the sort of map, the sort of fake map to how to get to where you want to go. If you read a lot of biographies, you know, for famous, successful people, and or just like watch YouTube videos of interviews and stuff, I mean, they're everywhere. I watch far too many. If you pay any attention to them, you'll notice that a lot of them have a lot of things in common. Two things. They all have a sort of idea of what they want to achieve, and they all used some form of to-do list. It sounds really boring. I can think of one celebrity who wrote himself a check for $1 million.
It's Jim Carrey.
And kept it in his wallet, Jim Carrey. And that's exactly what I'm talking about, is setting a goal. And now that he knows that is what he wants, he can orient himself to shoot for that, rather than have no idea and just kind of taking each day as it comes and not really thinking about what you want. He had a path. I think that's really cool. I think that people need that, something to aim for. There's loads of other examples, but they all escape me. I should have written them down. That would have been clever. See, I didn't fulfill my goal there. I should have prepared and set the steps out. Not taking my own advice. Yeah, to-do lists. It's crazy. I was listening to... Did you listen to that podcast with Matthew McConaughey on Joe Rogan?
No, I haven't.
It was actually really cool. And he was actually talking about he's got some book coming out or whatever. Yes, I listen to Joe Rogan. Yeah, shoot me. He is... I do...
Doesn't everybody listen to Joe Rogan?
I run a podcast, and he is the most successful podcaster of all time. Yeah, I'm going to listen to him. So he was interviewing Matthew McConaughey. I thought, oh, this is cool. And Matthew McConaughey was like, one of the secrets to his success was a to-do list. It gives him rewards as well. So if you've got like a to-do list or reminders, you can make it as small as like, oh, take the bins out, or get a loaf of bread, reply to that email, cut the grass. You can do like that kind of thing. And you can also apply it to your professional career. You know, make that phone call, book that rehearsal, you know, bringing it back to bands. And when you tick them off, it feels good. It's like, done. I've managed to achieve this today. And it gives you just a little bit of reward. And honestly, like, I started doing that maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. And it was like, just things around the studio, like send that quote request form back, book that client in, do that invoice, do that email, hoover the studio, order that microphone, and just like ticking off, or mix that song, master that song, send that song off. And I was like, look, like 8 things to do today, and I was like ticking them off as the day goes by. It feels good doing that. So if you can, you know, this whole creating a path for yourself, if you can structure them into daily reminders, you can put them on your smartphone. So if you have an iPhone, there's a reminders app. I don't know, does Android have an equivalent? I imagine it does.
Probably. I love them. I think so. I don't know.
I love the reminders thing. It also syncs to all your devices, which is cool. It syncs up to like your iPad and stuff. And it gives you it dings at you if you don't do it in time. So it's like, you need to do this.
Right.
It's quite cool. It's like having a...
It's like your mum.
Yeah, exactly. It's like having a virtual mum app. The mum app. You haven't cleaned your room. What are you doing? I love it.
Are you slouching? You should be sitting up straight.
Yeah, I know. It's just, genuinely, that was what my mum told me. Because I'm tall. I'm always like... slunched over.
It's a tall person thing, because I was the same. Like that, slouching and stop eating so fast.
Yeah. Oh, what was mine? Mine was probably talking too loud.
Oh yeah, talking too loud. I sometimes got that. It was mostly my sister got that.
Oh, so
that or talking too much in school anyway.
Yeah, well, we all got that, I think. So yeah. Utilizing that reminders thing, that's really cool. So things you could do. Small steps.
Mm-hmm.
Do small steps because you need to feel like you're accomplishing it. Don't put things that are like that take a month to do. So break each thing down. So you'll have like meta goals and sort of wee small ones. So don't set a reminder for become better than Jimi Hendrix. That's not a reminder. That's your goal. So say you want to be the best guitar player of all time. That's your goal. No matter how outlandish it is, that's your goal.
Yeah.
A step to that goal could be practice scales today for an hour.
Or make sure you at least practice every day.
Yeah.
Something.
Something small and achievable. You do this. You kind of set this out for your lessons for teaching. Small, attainable goals.
Each week it's like focus on this one thing. Just spend 5 minutes on it every day, and you'll notice that it just gets like it gets sorted like that.
Yep.
Really, all it needs is just like focused attention.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's another.
Well, that's homework is basically. That's basically what homework is. It's
I mean, the other thing I was going to say, if you're somebody who struggles to do that, there is no shame in like getting a teacher.
No,
somebody that can keep you accountable.
Yeah,
and they can be and you can, because sometimes that's what people need. They do just need somebody to just guide them. In which case, like there is no like shame in getting a teacher.
Not at all.
To work through stuff. Do that. 100% do that.
Even a mentor, just to like someone who's done it, someone who knows stuff. It's becoming more and more popular actually. Online mentors. So say you're a musician and you're starting out and you want help. You get like professional musicians who have been doing it for 40 years and have got loads of hit records or whatever, and they do online coaching. That's a thing that people are offering now. I've seen more and more, especially under lockdown. There's a couple of musicians that I know who are like mega famous, and they've started doing like online group coaching calls and things like that. And some of them have done like master classes. It's kind of the same thing, but it's less interactive. But some of them you can have like private Zoom calls if you pay for it. Which is pretty cool. But the idea of education, like homework, as being your sort of steps to the goal. The goal is the grade. The grade that the school gives you. That's your goal, is to get an A. The grade is arbitrary. Someone made it up. Like, this is a sort of level of education that you can get to. You aspire for an A in this subject, and then you do the incremental steps to head towards that A. The actual A itself is almost, depending on your subject, is almost irrelevant. I'll give you an example. There was a boy that sat next to me in my math class in high school, higher maths, and he got the same mark as me. We both got a C higher.
Right.
And that was in his case, was fairly meaningless, because he went on and did advanced higher maths and got an A, band 1, and then went to university and studied advanced mathematics, and has got a master's degree in it now. So
wow,
that higher maths grade is irrelevant in terms of its actual physical worth. All that did for him was point him in the right direction. He had a goal. He wanted to get an A. He didn't get it. He tried the next course, kept shooting for the stars, and eventually, with the work, the incremental work, he got there. It's kind of how...
Reminds me of one of the English teachers that I had in school was like that. He was actually very naturally gifted at maths, but he kept getting annoyed because he wasn't doing well in English, so he just kept doing English. And the teachers were like, why do you keep doing this? You're awful at English. And he was like, I'm going to go to university to study English literature.
Wow.
And then did the whole thing and teaches English, even though his like the thing that he could do without thinking about it, was maths. You know,
it's crazy.
And he was a very good English teacher. He was great.
Oh, really?
Very knowledgeable.
That's funny. You usually find it's like you're either one or the other. That's cool. You must be very, very, very smart. So yeah, it's funny now that I'm thinking about it, how schools and education have actually done this. They've set the goal and then push you along. So the difference is you don't have a teacher doing this for you. You have to kind of do it yourself. Now,
you're accountable.
You're accountable for yourself, but a lot of accountability. You hear a lot of stories. Children. I've heard a lot of stories of people who have kids come into their lives and they get an absolute booting up the backside. That if you want accountability, that's the best accountability you can get. Is I have to provide now. I better get my stuff together.
I mean, they're not quite children, but they're just as needy. But that is a driving force because I do.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, like I have to take care of them. You know, they are a responsibility.
Yeah.
So and they cost money.
Yep.
So. Get a goldfish or something.
It's a small little bit of accountability. It's not as much as a child, obviously, but it's a step in that way. And being accountable for yourself, a lot of people put aside, which I don't know. That's a whole sort of psychological thing. When it comes to someone else's well-being, a lot of people are more interested in other people's well-being than themselves. And that's, you've got to get yourself together first, I would say, because you're no use to anybody if you're a mess. It's the whole oxygen mask analogy in a plane. Like, always put your own oxygen mask on first before putting the oxygen mask on your child, because you're no use to anyone if you haven't sorted yourself out. That's what they tell you. Always put the mask on yourself and then the person next to you if they can.
Anybody who needs help. Yeah.
It's kind of like that. You've got to get yourself set up before helping anyone else. But it kind of all plays into that goal thing. Try and let the incentive be the goal. And you get kicks from, life gives you kicks, like kicks up the backside. I know COVID's given me a kick up the backside. I guess, like, I ain't earning what I used to, and I'm now like trying to think of other ways in which I can reach the goal of being self-sufficient and all that, and maintaining that. And it throws you a couple of curveballs, which is good. It keeps life interesting, I suppose. So, like I said, don't set reminders for outlandish stuff like become the greatest guitarist of all time, or earn $1 million, or play a gig on the moon, because that's the goal. If you want to play a gig in the moon and you happen to know Elon Musk as a personal friend, that's not necessarily out of your reach. They're talking about building moon bases. You could be the first band to play a gig on the moon. Why not? Play Dark Side of the Moon on the Dark Side of the Moon.
On the moon. But then no, that doesn't make any sense.
You would have to do it in a...
sound waves travel through, like, air, oxygen. I'm an idiot. I'm like, what would it sound like?
Nothing. It would sound like nothing.
On the actual moon, it would sound like you wouldn't hear anything.
You wouldn't hear anything, yeah.
But
in space, no one can hear you scream. I don't know what's that. What's that from?
I want to say it's like Alien or something like that.
Alien.
I think it's the tagline for Alien.
People screaming right now, like, it's this, you idiot, how can you not know that? I'm sorry, I don't know cultural reference. You're Googling it, aren't you? You're Googling it.
Yeah, it's Alien.
Is it?
Yeah, 1979. I got it right, yeah. In space, no one can hear you scream.
I'm a big Alien fan as well. I can't remember that. I need to watch Alien again.
Oh, it's a great film.
Yeah.
And Aliens.
So
Alien 3 can go
Alien 3
to heck.
is... There's nothing wrong with Alien 3.
This isn't a film podcast.
I know. Alien 4, that is pretty bad. I'll give you that.
I've never seen it.
Oh, it's
Seen it.
awful. But you kind of love to hate it. Anyway, so the last sort of little note here. Human potential is virtually endless. So no goal is too outlandish. I mean, there's people who said, "Oh, I'm going to walk on the moon," and did. "Oh, I'm going to go to Mars," and they are. You know, there's a space probe that has travelled beyond Pluto and has now escaped the gravitational pull of the sun, and on board has the ashes of the man who discovered Pluto. That's a thing that happened. That's mental. Human potential is endless. We just don't know where it'll end. So if you lay a path out in front of you and stick to it, stick to that path of that end goal, and don't be afraid to course correct, because curveballs can be thrown, like COVID. I thought my path was clear. I thought, I want to have a studio and I want to earn money from my studio. I want to play gigs. I want to earn money from that. I want to do creative stuff. I want to record music. I want to play gigs. And it's all going to be good. And then COVID happens. So now I have to course correct and think of ways. So I'm like, start a podcast, do more with Eriska, blah, blah, blah. Got all these different things on the go. You've started a YouTube channel. You've ramped up your teaching. We've got to try and course correct because things change. The path to that goal is not as clear as it was. You've got to maneuver that. But the underlying, I think, the underlying thing is that if you put your mind to anything, you can accomplish it. It's that's another film reference. That's Back to the Future. If you set your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. And it's true. It kind of is, because humans are pretty adaptable things. We live on glaciers. We live in like freezing cold climates of -40. We live in the Sahara. We live in water villages. Like, it's just, humans are the most adaptable creatures on Earth. We can do anything pretty much. That's how I would see it anyway. Pretty cool. Yeah, I'm trying to be inspiring here.
No, you are. It's very inspiring. But yeah, no, we're for sure. Yeah. I 100% agree with the sentiment that no goal, unless it's completely, illogical or irrational or whatever you want to call it. It needs to be attainable in the realm of reality that we live in.
Exactly. Yeah.
Then in that case, sure. Yeah. For sure, like any goal. I suppose the only thing I would say to that is go for it, but don't beat yourself up on the way if you feel you're not achieving it fast enough, because nobody knows. You just need to
There's no time limit.
keep going and keep going, because sometimes that can be a big problem. They say to themselves, like, I want to be a millionaire in the next 6 months or whatever. And then they really try, and they're like, well, it didn't happen. And then they become really crestfallen.
Never, ever.
And it's like, no, maybe like in the next 6 months, you'll become a millionaire.
Yeah.
Or the next 6 months after that. Just keep trying.
Yeah.
Because if you don't try at all, right? If the worst that can happen is that if you try, you might fail, and if you don't try, then the thing might not happen.
Can I interject with another movie quote?
Yes.
It's not about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you get hit and keep moving forward. Rocky,
yes.
I think that's Rocky 6 or something.
Right. Okay.
So basically, it's about how much you can take, and still keep moving towards your goal. Because if you just give up at every corner, you're never going to achieve anything. there's so much adversity gets thrown at people. You hear horror stories of like how tough people's lives are. You can sit back and wallow in it and just give up, or you can just take it on the chin and just keep going. Because there's always you've always got to try and aspire and keep pushing. If you ask any super successful songwriter, super successful musician, and ask them, "Have you written your best song?" They'll probably all say no. No, they're always trying.
Yeah.
Paul McConaughey has just he's releasing a brand new album. Man in his 70s, nearly 80 years old, and he's still trying to bring out music, and he's still trying to perfect his thing.
It reminded me of another story there. Now, actually, now that you reminded me, talking about music, Ed Sheeran has been. I don't know if he's stopped, but as far as I know, like since like forever, he's been trying to write songs for Rihanna to sing.
Okay.
And one of them was "Shape of You." Which then became a massive hit.
On his own, yeah.
Which is on his own, and he wouldn't have gotten that if he hadn't had that goal in mind I
didn't know that.
I want Rihanna to sing one of my songs, and he's still trying. I think to this day,
she's
I don't know if he's going. No, which is weird. I don't know why she said no, because it would have been a good. It would have been a good fit for her. I think there was a couple of like lyrical things that she was like, I don't know what this means. So
no.
Anyway, so yeah, just keep going, because I think it alludes to what you said back. Like you have that goal, writing a song for Rihanna, right? Sure, Rihanna didn't sing the song, but he did, and it did really bloody well.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the goal sort of.
The goal still kind of happened.
Yeah, but it's just he sidestepped and got it another way. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
And being able to adapt is important as well, and not just like continuing on the path and not changing. So like, COVID happens and you're still trying to be a musician, selling yourself as a musician. You can't really do that. You have to go and get a job doing something else, but the goal's still there, and you've just taken a sidestep. It's a temporary delay, but you're still. It's not failure. I mean, if you completely abandon the goal, that's a different thing, for whatever reason. But yeah, I'm just trying to. I wanted to do an episode on like the sort of this whole self-help thing. I mean, we are Level Up Your Band. It's the whole premise is progression. It's a game term. That's what the whole podcast is based on. It's a gaming, level up, get to the next level experience thing that you could see in games, video games. Because I like games. You like games. I thought Level Up Your Band would be quite a cool name. Games. So it's the idea of progression, and in all games, there's always a goal. There's always a quest. There's always a thing, a location, and you have to get to that location. Especially in RPGs, you don't know how you're going to get there. You kind of navigate your way to it. That's the whole fun in the game. Life's a game, really. It's about trying to reach something. It's not necessarily about the end thing. It's more about the things you do in between. Because the end goal's dead. That's where everything ends, right? That's the ultimate end. That's not where you want to head. It's about the journey towards there that's the important part. The video games are kind of that's what's kind of missing, unless you get a game where your character dies and then you play as the kids or something, which I've heard a couple of games do.
Oh, there's a couple of games like that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Anyway,
100%.
I think we've kind of hit the sort of bulk of this podcast, unless there was anything you wanted to add.
Nah, man, I don't think so.
Yeah.
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 I've nothing.
Literally nothing.
That was a good podcast, man.
Yeah.
No, literally nothing.
Just a bit of motivation, because just everything that's going on, COVID and
we need it,
politics
man.
and all
like,
this.
especially right now.
Yeah.
Things are hard.
Yeah.
Or things can be hard, but
things will pick up again, and set yourself a goal, stick to it, utilize things like daily reminders and just keep that focused on what you want to achieve from whatever you're doing. And it doesn't matter what you're doing; it's the same for everyone. Just keep on going. Anyway, if you are enjoying the podcast, we would highly, highly appreciate a little review or like whatever you happen to listen to it, and share with anyone you think would be interested in this. If there's any musician pals that are into podcasts, share them along. That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
We are on Instagram, Facebook, and all the rest of it. Spotify and iTunes and or whatever you call it now, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts. We have a YouTube channel as well. We put all the Zoom footage up on YouTube if you haven't checked that out, and you can look at our lovely faces. And Julian's ever-changing background from podcast to podcast.
Although at the moment, to be fair, it's been kind of more consistent.
This is a consistent one, yeah. We're kind of stuck to this one now. Sometimes it's reversed, sometimes it's not. It just depends. Occasionally you're in mirror image, which is quite funny. We have, I think, at this point, we should have 2 music theory sheets up on the free downloadables. So I've uploaded currently at the moment, I've uploaded the rhythm theory sort of time signature PDF. So it's like a sort of easy guide to understanding time signatures and stuff like that. And we've also got, you've been working on one, which I'm going to upload in the next day or 2.
Yep.
What was that
which
based
is,
on?
Just a quick guide on reading music.
Right.
Just the starters, so rhythms and
2 pages
where all the notes are on the 2 clefs, just 2 pages. I'm working it's hard, man, trying to explain all that kind of stuff. I don't know how I learned it.
Yeah.
So I'll be working on a harmony one, kind of explaining how chords how to chord.
Chords are weird.
Yeah, it's a very explaining music. It's so abstract. It's kind of annoying sometimes.
It's fun. I love that stuff.
It's fun. So yeah, working on that, and then maybe some examples of how you can write music for your friends.
That'd be cool. Yeah. I'd like to see that as well, actually. Yeah, so go on to the website, www.levelupyourband.com, and download the free PDF guides. We're going to just keep adding and adding and adding them every time we think of something. I've got a couple of ideas for future. So stay tuned for that. So I hope this episode was helpful, and if you had any questions at all, give us a shout. We are open to suggestions for podcast topics and whatever your questions. And hope you all have a good week, and we'll see you all next time. Bye.
Right. Bye.